Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Hopefully you can hear and see me okay. Thank you for joining this Your Overseas Home webinar. My name is Sebastian Bampton. I'm one of the account managers over here at Your Overseas Home. Today, we are very lucky to have Chris Zachariou from Chase Buchanan joining us. Chase Buchanan are a wealth management company and financial advisors who help hundreds of our clients and buyers who are undertaking similar journeys as yourselves overseas in Europe. Today, we're going to be talking all around the tax considerations that you should think about when relocating across over to Cyprus. It's great to have so many of you with us, whether you're joining on demand or listening in live. What we'll do is we'll have a quick presentation from Chris. We'll then open up the floor to any questions that you have and you're listening in live. We will try and get around to as many of them as possible. And at the bottom right-hand side of your screen, there should be a questions tab there. So type them away. Try and keep them fairly generic. We don't want to go into too much specific detail on your individual basis, but we will try and answer as many of them as possible within this session. If we don't get around to answering all of them today, we will pass your details across to Chris and the team at Chase Buchanan, where they can go through your individual and unique requirements in a bit more detail. I don't want to take too much time up. We've got 30 minutes to go through quite a lot of information, and I know Chris has got a presentation to get through as well. So Chris, I'll pass over to you. Thanks obviously for joining us today again. And would you mind just doing sort of a quick introduction to yourself, Chase Buchanan, and then going through into your presentation, if that's okay?
Yes, definitely. Hi everyone. I've done this a couple of times now before, and then my colleague Gillian Richards as well has also done it for the Cyprus office. I work for Chase Buchanan. I'm a private wealth advisor here, and we basically we specialize on expats moving from the UK to Cyprus, and then we also have offices in Spain, Portugal, and Belgium, all across Europe, and also in Canada. I'm like I said, it's about helping those clients, potential clients, I should say, move from England to Cyprus in this case, and hopefully this presentation today I'll give some light on what you need to think about. And again, you're all doing the correct thing where you're planning ahead, you're finding out what you need, and because the amount of people that look online and the information's quite foggy, and that's no fault for anyone. It's not as simple as it should be, especially post Brexit. So hopefully today this will really help define what your next steps are.
Brilliant, thanks, Chris. You've got the presentation there, I believe. Let me just put it front and center. There we go. Can you see it okay?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Perfect. So this is the first page. Here we are. So who we are, our services, our officers, and what we're going to be talking about is the tax essentials for Cyprus. Chase Buchanan, as mentioned, we're a highly regulated financial planning company, and we hopefully offer clear, unbiased and jargon-free advice and support to individuals such as yourselves wanting to move to Cyprus in this case. Our services is investments, financial planning, retirement planning, international and UK pension transfers, US connected persons, education fee planning, life and critical illness planning, and the list goes on. And I'm also Cypriot, and you probably can't think that because I've got incredibly red face right now. But that we did a charity event last week that raised quite a bit of money, and as we were golf day, so I was out all day, and as you can see, I've had the effects of it. So remember to pack sunscreen. That's the first thing to mention in the presentation. And like I said, offices in Cyprus, Belgium, France, Malta, across the globe, which is fantastic. So what we're going to talk about is the tax essentials. I'll not read off this list, but this is basically what we're going to be going into detail. It's the residency applications, the taxation of your pensions or your investments and how that works. And then we'll go into the tax on property and the general health and VAT and so on. So the first slide is talking about tax residency. Now this is to become these are the requirements, for a temporary residency application. So you would need to have showing 24,000 euros per annum. Now that is for an individual. If you were moving with your wife, it would be an additional amount, a percentage. I think it works out as around 28,000. So that's for two people. Now, what you'll have to do is physically show the receipts of the income coming in. In previous years, they were a bit more lenient in terms of I've got £24,000 or euros, in the account. You can see I have it there, so they usually tick it off. But now the last couple of years, they're very much more focused on making sure that they can see that income coming in monthly.
Chris, can I just ask a question on that?
Yes.
Is that income, would a pension be included within that? Would, maybe rental income? What kind of is income clarified as in Cyprus?
So this is specifically mapped out for residents that are wanting to retire here. For people who are wanting to have a job here, then that's a separate conversation that I'll hopefully have if they book a meeting or give me a call with the details at the end. But this, for example, could be from an investment, it could be from a pension, it could be from rental properties and so on. But what they want to see is basically 24,000 for an individual or 28,000 for a couple coming into the bank account. So they're seeing that the individual who's moving to Cyprus has the income to basically provide for the country and the government itself. So that's kind of the basis of it. The next few things are a clear criminal record certificate from the country of origin. So that's from the UK in some cases, or if you're coming from Spain, from there. Original medical exemption certificate for blood tests, and that's to show you don't suffer from hepatitis B or C, HIV or syphilis. And then the final requirement is a chest x-ray to show clear from tuberculosis. And I practice that word all day, tuberculosis. So so they're the basic requirements. Now, the reason why so many people move to Cyprus, not just for the sun and not just for obviously the beautiful scenery and the food and all that kind of stuff. Some of the cases are due to taxation and the benefits of tax here in Cyprus. Now, you probably have all heard of the 183-day rule. So if you're in the country for 183 days, you're considered a tax resident of that country. If you're not considered a tax resident of any other country and you're in there for 183 days, you're a tax resident of Cyprus. And if you have any family links to Cyprus, like family or business acquaintances and so on. However, there's a 60-day rule as well, and now not many other countries offer this. And the 60-day rule is really helpful for those who don't see themselves being in Cyprus for more than 183 days or after 60 days. So if you're in the country for 60 days and nowhere else in the world for 183 days, so people who travel or go and see their family from different parts of the world, you can still be considered as a tax resident. So that's called the 60-day rule. That means you can't reside in any other country that for 183 days. You're not a tax resident in any other state. You reside in Cyprus for at least 60 days, and you have other defined Cyprus ties as well. So that's a really good one if you're wanting to go cruise, have a retirement in Cyprus, and then in the summer months when it gets too hot, you have the opportunity to leave for a certain amount of period to go back to the UK or go South America, wherever you fancy. So that's the requirements for tax residency: 183 days, and also you have the option of a 60-day if you meet the criteria. So the income tax here in Cyprus is also beneficial. First off, we'll talk specifically about pension income. So there's a pension income flat. There's a pension income flat 5% charge on your income. So if you are earning, for argument's sake, 100,000 euros per annum, after the first 3,500, that'll be taxed flat at 5%. However, let's say you're earning 24,000 or 25,000, it actually works out cheaper to use the normal tax tables, which is the table below, because the first 19,500 is tax-free, and so on. So depending on your specific income, when you fill out your tax return, it will automatically give you the cheapest option. But having the 5% flat rule on your pension income is a huge benefit for those who with large amounts, and having these more favourable tax rates here on the table below is also more beneficial to your pension income too. Capital gains tax. So capital gains tax is 20%. Is 20% and is payable on financial gains from a sale of a Cypriot property with the sale of the Cypriot property with the first just over 17,000 euros being exempt for each person. Now, capital gains tax, you've probably all heard of it in the UK. So it's quite common. There is no capital gains tax on investment returns or income for third nationals, which you guys would be. And so basically, capital gains tax only applies to property. An allowance is made for transfer fees paid, inflation rate per year, and the cost of any additions made to the property. So that's worth discussing with your ourselves or your accountant, and also your person, what would you call people that buy property? your realtor as well. I'm so sorry. And then gains from sales of a property are exempt up to €85,000 if the owner resides in it continuously for at least 5 years prior to the sale. So you've got an exemption up to 85,000 if you have lived in that property for up to 5 years. Now, these are some of the taxes you need to consider when it comes to having property here in Cyprus. It's similar. This section's more talking about the local authority fees, the municipality tax, and the sewage tax. The best way to think of this is like a council tax in the UK. Depending on where you are in the UK, some places are cheaper, some places are a lot more expensive. I'm from Rotherham. Seb is in London. We pay very different council tax. I'll guarantee it. And it's similar here. So whether you're in a village or you're up towards the town centre, these charges may vary, but the local authority fees are between about €85 and €500, depending on the size of the property. So when you are talking to your realtor, make sure you get those diameters so you can discuss what you can expect to pay per annum on the local authority fees. The municipality tax is an annual tax between 0.1 and 0.2% of the property value as of the 1st of January 2013, or the first value if it's a new build. So if it's built after 2013, it'll be the first value of the property at that stage. And then the sewage tax is the annual tax, and that's between 0.05 and 0.3%. And that, again, is based off the property value as of the 2013, and if it's a new property, thereafter. And also something to consider with the sewage tax as well. It might not be applicable if you're in your town centre. It's probably more applicable to those who are out in the villages. So again, that's something you need to consider when speaking to your realtor about purchasing a property. Stamp duty. The purchaser is liable for the payment of stamp duty on a purchase of a property at the following rates. So the first 5,000 is at the 0% rate. 5,000 to 170,000 is at 0.15, and then above 170,000 it's 0.20. So that's something you need to consider as well, looking at the stamp duty you'll have to pay. VAT payable on a property. So 19% VAT is payable when buying a new property, except when a reduced rate starting from 5% is applicable for purchase of new properties, subject to certain conditions being met. And these conditions are: the property will be primary and permanent residence of the applicant for the next 10 years. The applicant has not purchased another property with a reduced VAT rate, and the applicant must be an individual over 18, and 5% VAT is payable on the first 200 meters squared floor area. So again, really get the dimensions and the facts and figures from your people you're purchasing the property from, and you should be able to get that from the real estate agent. The general health system. Now, this is incredibly important to me. I'm type 1 diabetic. So when I moved here beginning of last year, and that was the first thing I had to consider, is what I need in order to get on to YESI, and what are the requirements, how much does it cost, basically. The general health system here in Cyprus is fantastic. I will say that. I see them regularly. They're brilliant. I was worried about losing the standards of the NHS, and I was blown away about how they've treated me and how easy it is to sort out as well. Patients have the option to select a healthcare provider from a private as well as public healthcare sector, and it's worth considering. I use both, and it's fairly inexpensive as well. Contribution rates are, as the table there below follows. So for a lot of you guys are retiring, so you can look at the pension at 2.65. For those that are coming here to work, it's the same amount. The higher amount is for the self-employed, who are on their own income at 4%. But this presentation will be made available to you all after this, and I believe it'll be on YouTube too. So if you have any questions or you want to look back on the table, please feel free. Cyprus wills. Now, this is important, especially considering that Cyprus operates a forced heirship system. So it's something to consider. And what I would recommend is, if you still have ties to the UK, such as property and children, I would make a will not only in the UK and making sure it's up to date, but also have a will in Cyprus that reflects the will in the UK. So you have two separate wills, but they are connected in some way. That's the best way to get the best outcome for yourselves and your family if anything was to happen. So please be aware of the forced heirship system and update your will as soon as possible when you move out here, especially when you're purchasing a property. And checklist. So it's vitally important that you speak to a regulated financial advisor. And for some of the reasons I spoke about, you've done a brilliant job attending this webinar today. It's really good that you're putting plans together before moving. I've spoken to a lot of people, and it's scary how much that book the flight from Manchester, land in Paphos, with look for a house and not consider any of the applications. It's fairly straightforward, but it's more. I say that when you're prepared, when you have all the documents you require, and go. And so that's really something to consider. So brilliant to you guys for preparing beforehand. Now, why speak to a financial advisor? Exactly what we spoke about. There could be a case where you could reduce your pension income significantly. There could be a case where you're presuming that your investment income may be taxed at a large rate, such as it is in the UK. So it's worth to put yourself at ease and really find out what's the best options for you and how best to draw from your, at the end of the day, the wealth that you've taken your entire lives to build up to. So it's incredibly important. And this is our motto. It's got a nice ring to it. Trusted advice made simple. I don't know how well I did on this presentation, but I hope I answered some of your questions. And please use the QR code to ask any specific questions or book a free consultation. I'm more than happy to help. And I've done this 3 or 4 times, and it's actually amazing to see how many people I've helped move from the UK mostly to Cyprus. And hopefully I can help you guys too.
Perfect. Thanks, Chris. So I've done a couple of these with yourself, but also other members of the Chase team. And, I feel like I know it fairly well, but for me, going through it again, it's still a bit of a minefield. There's so many different taxes, so many things to think about. It's probably a part of the process that unfortunately people do kind of push under the carpet, so to speak. So echo what you said there, Chris. Obviously great to have so many of you listening in live as we are now. Please, again, ask your questions. We have some time now to go through some questions that you may have. And then, of course, after this session as well, you can spend a bit of time contacting Chris or the team at Chase, discussing your unique requirements and going through it in a bit of detail. Chris, thanks so much for that. That was really, really great and comprehensive as usual. What we'll do now is we'll go through to a few questions, and I know there's been a couple of questions that have come through already. One thing I'd just like to ask briefly before we kind of get stuck into them is, I know you mentioned there about speaking to someone early, having this conversation, having the awareness about this part of the process before, perhaps getting on flights, looking at properties and hopefully putting down offers. But when is the best time to actually speak to you or a member of the Chase team? Is there a time where it's too soon, too late, too early? When would you recommend someone having that conversation?
I would honestly say as soon as possible, and not just for preparation, to put your mind at ease. So once you understand what's requirements in terms of what's going to happen to my pension, what are the rules in terms of investments and so on, do I need insurance? Put your mind at ease, so then you can really focus on what house do I like, where's the best place to have gyros at night, and so the earlier, the more educated you are on what you have to do next, honestly, the better for you guys. I have clients that move in 2 months. I also have clients that are looking to move in 2026. There isn't a wrong time, but the sooner the better, and you can really focus on what's best to go forward.
Yeah, perfect, Chris. So just to echo that, I mean, everyone here, you worked hard to be in a position to move across Cyprus. I'm very jealous of you all for being able to do that, or at least look into doing that. Protect yourself, make sure you're aware of these rules and regulations. Chris, I'll start with a question we got from Tracy here. I think it goes back to the initial, maybe the first or second slide that you shared with us around the income per annum and the tax that people can pay on that and how they can prove it. Tracy asked, as a UK landlord with a property portfolio, does the rental income count as an income or the profit from the rentals as a whole?
So rental income from property in the UK would have to be taxed in the UK. That can't be taxed within, you're a Cypriot tax resident, but you'll have a tie to the UK, which I would recommend, if you don't have already, to speak to an accountant. And what you'll have to do, because the tax years are different in Cyprus. Sorry, I should have mentioned that. Instead of it being April to April, it's January to December. So what you'll need to do is basically continue with tax returns in the UK. And then separately, when you do your tax return here in Cyprus, what you'll still have to do is put that information still in your tax return, There's a double taxation treaty, so you won't be taxed twice. But what they want to know is basically they want it to be registered, so they're aware of it. Nothing will be taken. It's just a case of having the fact find down there.
Brilliant. And with that income from a rental property here in the UK, would that rental income be recognised as part of the £24,000 that is required?
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
It would be. Yeah. So what you want to show is the total amount of income. It doesn't matter where it comes from. I am receiving €2,000 per month, or 24,000, and if it's a couple, 28,000.
Yeah, cool, perfect. There's actually a couple of questions. Hopefully, we've just answered them here, but one from Linda, which again is around rental income and UK property tax in Cyprus. So, yeah, as Chris mentioned, you would be taxed in the UK on that. And then Gary's asked, well, he has an NHS pension. Will he be taxed here in the UK? Again, I presume that is a yes.
Yes, this has actually recently changed. So, and people with government pensions that have lived in Cyprus for a number of years or planning to move here in the last year are aware of this. They have been for about 3 or 4 years now. So there was a rule change at the beginning of 2024, which stated all UK government pensions would now be taxed within the UK. So if you have an NHS pension, a military pension, a police pension, government pension such as that, then that would have to be taxed in the UK, unfortunately.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for your questions so far. One other question that Linda had, going back to the property sales tax, is the €85,000 exemption, is that per person, or is that just on the property sale?
Just from the property sale. But I'll have to double check that, but I'm 99% sure it's just from the property sale. But Linda, if you like, drop me a message after this, send me an email, and I will more than happy to give you a more substantial answer to that.
Thank you. Thanks, Linda. Linda actually has one more question. To be honest, Linda, I don't know this myself. Hopefully, Chris does. Linda asked, if you have an S1 NHS certificate, do you still pay for GESI?
No, you don't. No, my colleague Gillian, her husband, has that same thing, and he does not pay for GESI. No.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you very much. Gary, we've answered that one. Andrew here has asked, I think that I saw that a sale of a property has to be completed before you move to purchase in Cyprus. I have a second property in the UK. Does that have to be sold? It forms part of the income that he'll have for the requirements in Cyprus.
If it's for your income requirements, then that however you get to it, it doesn't have to necessarily be sold before you move to Cyprus. You can still keep your property in the UK and be a tax resident and a resident of Cyprus. I hope that answers your question. I don't know if I misunderstood it.
I think hopefully it does. And as I said, Chris, we'll pass your details and vice versa, details across to one another. And I always recommend having a bit of more comprehensive and one-to-one discussion, just to kind of make sure all these questions are answered correctly and are useful for your unique requirements. We've got another question here from Oliver. Are there any additional requirements if you and your partner have a child under the age of 18? What is the status of a child when they become 18?
So if you have, and I should have mentioned this. Now I said it's the 24,000 income per annum. It's for a spouse or a partner. It would be 28,000, and again for children it would be an additional amount, but it's a small percentage. I don't have the actual figures, but what I'll do is if you contact me, I'll let you know how much it'll be. And you know what, I'm actually going to ask to add that into the presentation. I'll update the presentation and add that in there as well. Because if you have children, it's just an additional amount, and it's not a huge amount. It may be an extra 4,000, but that's something I don't want to say, which I have already. But here we are.
No, it's a good question actually. As I said, I've done a couple of these as well, and I don't think it's ever been asked. So yeah, thank you very much, Oliver. We will get around to answering that. But we'll go up now. We've got quite a few questions, so thank you all for keeping them coming. This is actually probably quite a generic one from Demetrius, which will hopefully be useful to everyone. What is the actual process with getting in touch with you and the Chase team, Chris? Say we're here now in this position now. How do you go about it? Do we just call into you, booking a free appointment? What does that look like?
So what I would recommend, and if you see on the presentation, and technology may not be everyone's cup of tea, but there's the QR code there. If you take a snap to that, it goes straight to my Calendly account where you can book a free 30-minute, it says 30-minute, it can be as long as you like, free consultation with myself. Or you can give us an email, call our Cyprus office, and both my mobile numbers are there as well. I'm very easy to contact. I actually had a call from a BA pilot a couple of weeks ago. It was 2 a.m. I think he was somewhere around the world, and luckily I was sharp enough to wake up and point him into explain to him the time difference, and in a nice way, and book a meeting going forward for a better, more suitable time.
Yeah, great. All right, perfect. Yeah, nice. I know you've helped numerous numbers of our buyers under similar circumstances and journeys overseas in Cyprus, and we've had nothing but great feedback. So thanks so much for going out your way with them. And one question here from Andrew, and it may have been mentioned in the presentation, so forgive me, is around the UK state pension. So if someone was to move to Cyprus, become a Cypriot resident, would they still be eligible for the UK state pension? Would they be eligible for the increase within that? How does that look?
Yes, is the question. Yes, you'll still be eligible for your state pension, the increases as well. One thing you need to consider is the taxation of it. It'll be taxed in the UK. But any questions around that, I'm more than happy to help further in future.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Yeah, there's a couple of questions floating around the UK state pension. So yeah, as I said, we'll pass them across to Chris after. But we've got a few more minutes, so we'll try and get through to a lot of these, or as many of these as possible. Demetrius has asked quite an interesting question around giving up the UK residency. So if they were to move to Cyprus and they live there more than 185 days a year, would they have to give up their UK residency and become a Cypriot resident effectively?
Yes, if you're in any country for more than 183 days, you would be a tax resident of that country. There's obviously the 90-day rule in the UK. If you're outside of the UK for 90 days, then you would have to have the residency application in place. But that's something to consider. Yes, unfortunately, you can't have both. However, using the 60-day rule, you would be able to be in Cyprus for 60 days, and you can be in England, in theory, for 182 days and still be classed as a tax resident and resident of Cyprus.
Okay, perfect. A couple of questions here, two of them actually very similar. And I know we're jumping in and out of different topics. It's just the way that the questions are coming through. Michael and Gary have both asked around state pension, but also personal pension and government pensions. They're obviously taxed here in the UK. Would they then pay tax again on that income in Cyprus, or is that's taxes done? Yeah.
Absolutely not. So Cyprus has a double taxation treaty with the UK and also I think over 140 other countries, where basically you're going to be taxed in the UK. What you'd have to do is reference that within your tax return here in Cyprus, but you will not pay a double taxation on anything.
Brilliant. Yeah, so obviously it's what you guys help out with, and I don't want to scare anyone off, but we've heard stories before of people not planning this, and perhaps there isn't a possibility, not in Cyprus, but in other countries of getting taxed twice on income, which is, of course, not what we want to happen. So, yeah, thanks for that, Chris, and thanks for the questions. So we've got about 6 seconds now, so I'll wrap up. But before I do so, obviously, Chris, thanks so much for going through them. Thanks for all the questions that came through from the audience. I know we could talk for hours around this, and each individual requirements are different. So just to really reiterate it, and I don't want to flog a dead horse or anything like that, but please do get in touch with Chris and the team at Chase Buchanan. So they've helped numerous numbers of clients undertaking similar journeys as yourself. Before we finish, obviously thanks to Chris, but we'd like to invite you to leave us a review on Trustpilot if you found this helpful. There should be a link that pops up now on your screens. And as I said, we will pass your details across to Chris and the team over there. Good luck with all the house hunting and property hunting. That is the fun bit. It's not so glamorous, but obviously very, very important. And Chris, yeah, thanks again for your time.
One more thing, Seb, and I'm so sorry I haven't mentioned it. I removed this point because I saw just now somebody asked a question on it. I didn't get the name. Apologies. I removed this from the presentation. It's the permanent residency rule. So if you purchase a property for a certain amount, then you can automatically go for permanent residency. The reason why I've not included it, and if you, I don't know if you're all aware of this already, that still exists, but that's actually not been approved since 2019. There's a huge backlog with the residency department here in Cyprus. So since 2019, the permanent residency has not been applied to those who do the requirements. So that's something to really consider, because people still emphasize that on the online, on the advertisements. Just really consider that's not been approved since 2019. Hopefully in the future, when the backlog goes down a little bit, then it'll be back in place. And also you'd be able to, if you did purchase the property, did meet all the requirements, hopefully backdate it to then. But that's something to really consider. But yeah, apologies for not mentioning that. It was purposely done because I removed it from the presentation. But thank you for the person who asked the question on that. And thank you to you, Seb. You've been brilliant. Thank you.
No, Chris, it's all you. And also, yeah, I say the questions have been great as well. There's really, really good questions coming through. So thanks everyone for being here. Chris, we'll speak soon. I hope. Enjoy the rest of the Cypriot afternoon, the sunshine. And yeah, we'll be in touch soon. Thanks.
I'll not be in the sunshine. I'm going to put after sun all over my face. And
put that sun cream on. All right. Cheers, Chris. All the best. Take care, everyone. Thank you very much.